All right, so Mike brought up this topic, the next topic here on the last day or two, and he said, man, it seems like there's more talk about the backup quarterback here in this situation with Joe Flacco than I ever remember anywhere, wherever he's been. And I said, well, we've been talking about outside of the Baker years until the last year of Baker. I said, I think we've been talking about the backup quarterback every year. It's always been a conversation. But, Jason, you disagree with me.
Yeah, I disagree. I hear what Mike's saying.
Yeah.
The Browns couldn't even settle on a starting quarterback. They couldn't even find a starting quarterback for mostly the last 20 years. So I don't think that the backup, it hasn't commanded the amount of attention that it has now. And number one, because Flacco went on such an incredible run last year, I think has everybody's attention. Number two, the injury history of Deshaun has a lot of people realizing, man, that's becoming a much more important spot than maybe it should be or has been in the past. So I hear what Mike's saying. I tend to agree with him that for a position that ideally you would hope would never take a meaningful snap,
right?
That's probably not reality, though. Reality is that guy is probably going to be called on at some point. And so a lot of the time, focus, and attention has been put on a backup spot.
I think it's unique for the Browns, at least in terms of what should you do in terms of signing that guy.
Yeah.
We've had plenty of conversations when Johnny Manziel got drafted. When should he play? When should he play?
Yeah.
When Baker Mayfield got drafted. Remember, Tyrod Taylor started those first, two games or whatever, and then he got hurt?
Yep.
So those conversations have been had. But, okay, if you're taking it from this angle of how much money should they spend on the backup, who should that backup be? That is something that, no, we have not had that conversation. But this is a unique situation. The Browns spent a ton of draft capital and a ton of money on a quarterback that they thought finally solved their problem at the position.
Yeah.
And to this point, through 2 years, we're now hoping that he has solved the problem at the position, but we don't know that he has solved the problem at the position. And the fact that he got hurt last year and the fact that, as you said, Flacco played as well as he did, those three things have combined to create a pretty unique situation here where, because the Browns won games with Joe Flacco, I think the assumption is, I think we often felt as fans that if you have a good starting quarterback and he gets hurt, the season's over, so what does it matter?
Right.
But when Watson got hurt last year, the Browns continued to play very well. Now, we could argue that, well, in the end, they lost in the playoffs and because they didn't have a good enough quarterback. You could argue that. But I still think there's a feeling that if Watson got hurt again, Flacco could win games for us in the playoffs potentially. I don't know if that's true or not, but if you believe that, then certainly or whether it's Flacco or anybody else, then it is an important decision.
I do think last year was very much an anomaly. I still believe if your starting quarterback goes down, you're probably screwed. I think last year was just a lot of different factors that went the Browns' way, and they've very much stumbled into a backup in Flacco, a replacement guy who fit the system perfectly, a system, by the way, that they're completely tearing down and changing. So who's to say Flacco's going to fit the new system? I don't think he'll fit it at all, actually.
Do we know for sure they're tearing down it?
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty sure. That's why they brought in a quarterback coach, offensive coordinator who has a lot of experience in this type of mobile quarterback, shotgun spread. And again, I don't want to make it sound like it's a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. But when you have the amount of success that they had, and they did have success last year with that style offense, it just kind of makes you think like, man, it's not a hard system that they were asking Deshaun to run. And I know you want to play to a quarterback's strengths, and I agree with that. You want to play to what your quarterback does well. But that offense that Kevin was trying to run last year took a team to the Super Bowl in San Francisco and is a team good enough to win it. That's basically San Francisco's offense is what Kevin's running here. And it's not very complicated. But I don't want to get off on a tangent on that. It is
Ken Dorsey's the genius that's going to turn the offense around.
We'll see.
Okay.
But I'm went on such a tangent now. I forgot what the original point was. But in terms of
winning with a backup quarterback.
I do think that was very much an anomaly.
Yes.
I like DTR. We talked about it yesterday. I really felt like he was really starting to come into his own a little bit. And what was it, Denver? Not the Denver. What game did he get the concussion? Chargers? It was somewhere on the West.
Denver.
It was Denver?
Yeah.
I really felt like he had a couple of throws and a couple of drives where you could just see it. You could see it coming. You could feel his confidence gaining. And I thought, like, okay, like, this is it. And then he gets a concussion, and then he's knocked out, and then Flacco comes in, and everything takes off. And I put Jacoby on my list, and I would be fine with that if they did bring in a veteran. But I'd be okay with it if they roll a DTR. I don't think they're going to. I think they probably will bring in a veteran, but I think DTR is still the long-term plan. Is the quarterback here? Is the backup quarterback here long-term? And just little glimpses, but I like what we saw last year out of them.
The idea of winning in the playoffs nowadays with a backup quarterback is pretty remote. Like we saw it with Nick Foles
in
can Philadelphia.
Happen. But do you really want to run
very
around,
rare.
Do you really want to run around with a bottle looking for lightning? Because that's basically what it is.
Gee, I know you feel differently.
Well, listen, this analogy comes directly from Super Tuesdays, You got two presidential candidates, right? Both of them are up in there long in the tooth, 80-plus years old, right?
They don't have any teeth left. They're so long in the tooth.
So old, so long in the tooth. So now.
So I think Trump is actually 78, not 80.
Okay.
But he's old, too. They're both old.
Both old, right?
Yeah.
So generally speaking, who you run with as your vice president candidate doesn't really usually matter because vice presidents really don't do anything. They're more of, let's go out and do some kissing babies. Let's go about and tout the policies that we put forth and we interject with the people. And usually vice presidents are pretty much a figurehead. Now, that's because usually the candidates you endorse are in the 50s, maybe early 60s, good health, young, enthusiastic, and pretty much are not going to die. They have the Secret Service. They're probably not going to get sick or whatever. But in this case, it matters.
Joe's old, Donald's fat,
It matters. Who are you running with, right? So now people are looking more at those candidates for vice presidents to make their decision because they say, you're one cough away. Yeah. You're one bad outing, one cheesesteak away from being out of here. So that is why I compare it to this situation. When you look at it, normally speaking, quarterbacks backup quarterbacks aren't a thing, right? However, when you take a look at the way the roster is constructed with the Cleveland Browns, you have a quarterback who has not played for a sustained period of time. He's missed multiple calendar years. He only played 6 games, 11 games for you. And you're giving him all this money. So then you have another guy, DTR, who is a backup, who is young, did not play that many games, and you're spending a bunch of money on the quarterback. You're reloading these contracts everywhere with your good players to try to get more cap players to get cap space to get better. And guess what? It does matter who your backup quarterback is because I've always said after they signed Deshaun Watson, the Cleveland Browns were too big to fail. As when Jimmy Haslam made that move, he's told you, I'm going to spend this amount of money and I'm signing up to restructure these deals. I'm signing up for whatever comes with it. And that means I need a plan and a backup plan for everything. And you see what it is. Now you get Joe Flacco coming back in. Yes, is it ideal? No. I wouldn't care about a vice president, but now I'm looking at it, right? Now I'm looking because I know what the consequences could be. And the Browns know what those consequences could be. Deshaun got hurt. Then we were sitting here looking around trying to find a way to move the football. What better way to end that conversation? Didn't have a guy that was already doing it coming back in, and he's a veteran, and he's going to be staying sharp. I want to do this and want to stay sharp, and I actually like the fact that he's going to be competitive. To be truthful, he don't even really want to say, like when you hear his interviews, he does not want to concede the fact that like Deshaun Watson's better than him. Like
you're right.
He does not concede that. He's a professional, but he is like under no way, shape, or form am I about to sit up here and say that I think that I shouldn't be able to compete. I kind of like that. I like the fact that he's been in both positions. And to me, I think the reason why the Browns in the Cleveland area and the Cleveland market does this a lot about quarterbacks in general is because we've never had one sustainable. The last guy we had was Bernie Kosar. They ran him out of town, and we've been kind of spinning our tires trying to find guys, whether it's retreads, older guys, rookies. Yeah. Nothing's really helped.
I will say, and I'm pretty sure that in the last 4 years, I think Brock Purdy is the only backup quarterback that has won a playoff game. Now, if anybody can think of anybody else, I can't. In the last 4 years,
did the Dolphins win a playoff game before they lost to the Bills last year with the backup? Or was
that was 2 years ago?
No, they lost in the first round.
That was the first round. Okay.
Yeah. Thigpen, right? Wasn't Thigpen the starter?
No, it was
Skylar Thompson.
Yeah.
So think about it. Last
Tim
year,
Tebow?
that was a long time ago.
He said last 4 years. G.
Yeah, I'm saying last 4 years. Last year, the only backups that started the playoff game were Flacco and whoever
Mason
started
Rudolph.
for the Steelers, and they both lost. The year before that, there were a couple, but they all lost except for Purdy. And now Purdy's a starter. I mean, Nick Foles is the only backup to make a run in the playoffs that was a career backup for a while that I can think of. Purdy is clearly shouldn't have been a backup. He should have been the starter, and now he is.
It's a good question. I'll do some digging by the end of the show.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think. I was looking quickly through the last 4 years, and I couldn't find any others.
But what if I look at it like this? Isn't it just I don't just morph to the playoffs? I say, what if it's a guy that just needs to win you?
That's where it matters.
3 or 4 games.
That's where
if
it
somebody
matters.
get hurt.
That's where it matters. If it's not really about, I think it's more about if my quarterback misses a month of the season,
Right.
not if he misses the whole season of the playoffs.
Right.
If it's, the AFC is so loaded, it could be the difference between the 2 seed and the 4 seed.
2 weeks. He has a 2-week hamstring,
Right.
hamstring, ankle,
Right.
knee, whatever. He's out 2 weeks.
Yeah,
You got someone who can hold serve for 2 weeks. Go
Right.
500. Get you
Right.
a win.
Right.
Go 1-1.
That is
2
important.
games.
Go ahead, Mike.
It is, and real quick, last thing on DTR. I go back to last season when he beat out Josh Dobbs for the backup, and we celebrated trading Josh Dobbs. I know some people were mad and got madder in hindsight when Dobbs played well. But, I mean, G, you gave him the nickname DTR. Like, he got his own nickname from you. And I liked what I saw against Denver. And even though Pittsburgh didn't put up a ton of points, I throw the Baltimore game out the window because that was such a wonky, unique. He didn't find out he was starting till an hour before. I guess I liked what I saw from DTR enough to think that all the conversation around Brissett, Flacco, whoever that backup quarterback may be, I guess I'm just a little higher on DTR than some others.
Well,
That is what it is right
everybody get nicknames, but the one nickname that stands for long and stands the test of time is NFL. That stands for not for long. You got like Joe Flacco. When you come in, DTR. Joe Flacco got Flaccavelli, and Flaccavelli was greater than DTR. Like if you said, watch this. If you said you had one game,
Oh, yeah, it's Flacco. Yeah.
it was Flacco.
But it's a year later. Now Flacco's 39. Like,
So,
who knows? Maybe,
DTR might came back with something in his bag.
we
Yeah,
don't know
I mean,
yet.
no one knows. and we'll find
I
out
would
in
be
camp,
in the end okay if they went with DTR. I didn't celebrate Josh Dobbs being traded, nor did I rip the Browns for not signing somebody initially. But once Deshaun got hurt, my only criticism of the Browns last year is they should have signed Flacco earlier. Once Watson had the first injury, they should have done
Yeah.
something.
I was jumping
But
up
that's
and
old
down.
news at this
but
point.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I felt you needed that.
last thing. We'll move on to a little Cavs talk here. But in both your guys' free agency projections, right? You had them signing Devin White. G, you had them signing Zach Moss for similar money to what you think Flacco or Brissett would get on the open market. It comes down to the backup quarterback for $6-ish million, or Bull, in your case, Devin White for $5, G, Zach Moss for $8. Would you take the running back and linebacker, or would you take the backup quarterback if those were the two? Pick one or the other.
If you had to, I would take the veteran linebacker over a backup quarterback.
You got, as Jason Lloyd says, backup quarterback could be the difference between a defensive tackle or backer or
Right.
safety or corner receiver.
If it does come down to that.
And I like Flacco, but I'm not crazy.
Fair. I just had to ask. All right, we're talking a little